They brought chains for humanity, but their fleets became coffins. The Valthyr reinforcement fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system in scattered groups, spread across multiple entry points. 500 warships, the largest battle force the Empire had assembled in decades. Their commanders expected to find Earth already conquered, Overlord Krathax celebrating victory. Instead, they found human ships waiting for them. Admiral Park had positioned his forces carefully. Earth's fleet, the Mars defense ships, and the newly built combat vessels using Valthyr technology. Together, maybe 120 ships against 500. The math was still terrible, but humans had stopped caring about fair odds. They're spreading out, trying to encircle the planet, Captain Narration reported from the Retribution. They think we'll defend in a tight formation. Then we teach them the same lesson we taught the First Fleet, Park replied. All ships execute scatter pattern Omega. The human fleet broke apart, ships darting in different directions. The Valthyr commanders tried to maintain their encirclement, but they were spread too thin across too much space. Instead of facing one concentrated enemy, they found themselves chasing dozens of separate targets. Captain Ji-won Kim led her squadron deep into the asteroid belt. Behind her, carefully positioned among the rocks, were engineer Junho Lee's final surprise. For months, engineering teams had been attaching engines and guidance systems to asteroids, not small rocks. Massive chunks of stone and metal, some as large as city blocks. Targets entering the belt, Ji-won's tactical officer reported. Activate the engines, Ji-won ordered. Throughout the asteroid belt, thrusters fired. Massive rocks began to move, accelerating toward the Valthyr ships chasing human vessels through the debris field. The aliens detected them too late. Their ships were designed to fight other ships, not to dodge planetoids moving at combat velocities. 3 Valthyr cruisers were crushed between asteroids and human firepower. 2 more were damaged badly enough to lose mobility. The belt had become a killing field where human defenders held every advantage. Scientist Jamin Huang launched the upgraded version of his Cascade virus from hidden transmitters throughout the solar system. The new version was more aggressive, spreading faster and causing more damage. Within hours, Valthyr ships were reporting system failures, corrupted navigation, and communications breakdowns. Their fleet coordination is falling apart, Intelligence Officer Sun Wu-Jang reported. Individual captains are making decisions without proper information. They're shooting at phantom targets our virus creates on their sensors. Dr. Hee-jin Yoon monitored the Valthyr military frequencies. She could hear panic in their communications. These ships had come expecting easy victory. Instead, they were dying. They're calling for help from the Empire, Hee-jin translated. But their own communication systems are so corrupted, the messages are barely getting through. On Earth's surface, Major Sora Han commanded the railgun networks. The new installations were larger and more powerful than the weapons used in the first battle. When Valthyr ships came within range, she didn't hesitate. All batteries fire for effect. Railgun projectiles streaked through space at incredible speeds. The Valthyr tried to evade, but their corrupted navigation systems gave them false position data. Ships zigged when they should have zagged. Several took direct hits, hull armor cracking under kinetic impacts. The moon opened fire again. Colonel Daeun Ko unleashing another barrage from hidden silos. This time, the missiles carried the Cascade virus in their targeting systems. Even missiles that were shot down infected nearby Valthyr ships with corrupted code. Captain Boranam's Mars fleet struck from an unexpected angle, having looped around the sun to approach from the Valthyr blind spot. Her ships were fresh, well-armed, and ready for battle. They tore into the enemy formation like wolves among sheep. Target their command ships, Bora ordered. Cut off their leadership. The Mars fleet's weapons had been upgraded with captured Valthyr technology. Human innovation combined with alien engineering made them devastating. Valthyr shields that should have protected them failed against weapons designed using their own principles. In the chaos of battle, the freed alien slaves aboard human ships proved their worth. Unikang and her fellow Kelthir knew Valthyr tactical patterns, having studied their conquerors for years. They advised human commanders on where to strike, when to retreat, and how to exploit Valthyr doctrinal weaknesses. They always protect their flagships, Yuna told Admiral Park. It's a cultural thing. The Valthyr believe their leaders must survive to maintain honor. If you threaten command vessels, they'll sacrifice smaller ships to protect them. Park used that information ruthlessly. He sent small, fast attack groups after Valthyr command ships. When the enemy pulled escorts to defend their commanders, human heavy ships struck the now exposed flanks. The battle raged for 18 hours. Space around Earth filled with debris, both human and alien. The Valthyr fleet, despite their numbers, was being systematically destroyed. Overlord Krathax watched from his destroyer as the reinforcement fleet died around him. He had tried to warn the Empire. He had told them humans were different. They hadn't listened. Now 500 more ships were paying the price. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting again," his communication officer reported. "On every frequency, in every language the Valthyr used, Admiral Park's message played. Behind him were recordings of destroyed Valthyr vessels, freed slaves from 17 conquered species, and the damage reports from the Empire's own ships. You came with 800 ships to conquer one planet," Park said calmly. "We've destroyed or captured more than 700. Your empire is crumbling. Conquered worlds are in open rebellion. Your technology is corrupted with our virus. Your ships are coffins floating in space." He paused, letting the message sink in. "We're giving you one chance. Surrender now. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or keep fighting and join the rest of your fleet in the void. You have 1 hour to decide." Valthyr captains looked at each other through communication channels. They looked at the wreckage of their mighty fleet. They looked at the humans who had done the impossible. One by one, ships began powering down their weapons. Overlord Krathax sat alone on his bridge, watching his fleet surrender. He should have been ashamed. Instead, he felt only relief that the killing would stop. "Power down weapons," he ordered quietly. "The battle is over. We've lost." Human boarding teams moved through surrendered Valthyr ships. They were efficient and professional, securing the vessels and treating alien crews correctly. Captain Ji-won Kim led one boarding team onto a Valthyr carrier. "Take them to the holding areas," she instructed her Marines. "No abuse, no revenge. We're better than that." But she made sure the Valthyr saw the recordings. She showed them what their empire had done to conquered species. The slavery, the cruelty, the destroyed civilizations. She wanted them to understand what they had been part of. Some Valthyr refused to look. Others watched with expressions that might have been shame. 6 days after the battle ended, a single Valthyr diplomatic ship arrived from the Empire. The Empire had been watching broadcasts of the battle. They had seen 800 ships reduced to less than 70 survivors. They had seen their military superiority shattered by one stubborn planet. Now they wanted to negotiate. Admiral Park met the Valthyr diplomats in a conference room aboard a space station orbiting Earth. He didn't smile. He didn't offer comfortable chairs or refreshments. He simply placed a datapad on the table between them. "This is your Empire's surrender document," Park said flatly. "You will recognize Earth's sovereignty and independence. You will withdraw all military forces from a 50 light-year radius around our system. You will pay reparations for the damage you caused, and you will begin releasing every slave from every conquered species." The lead Valthyr diplomat looked uncomfortable. The Empire cannot simply release all conquered territories. It would cause chaos. "You should have thought of that before you built an empire on slavery," Park replied coldly. "Those are our terms. Accept them or we continue this war, and next time we bring the fight to your home world." The threat wasn't empty. Human engineers were already studying captured Valthyr jump drives. Within months, Earth would have ships capable of traveling to other star systems. The Valthyr had brought the technology themselves, wrapped in the hulls of ships they thought would conquer humanity. "I need to consult with my government," the diplomat said weakly. "You have 6 hours," Park replied. "After that, we start hunting down the rest of your fleet wherever we find it." The Valthyr diplomat left. Admiral Park sat alone in the conference room, looking at the stars beyond the viewport. Earth had won, but the cost had been enormous. Thousands dead, cities damaged, ships destroyed. The war had changed humanity forever. Captain Ji-won Kim found him there an hour later. "The casualty reports are final," she said quietly. 8,000 military personnel killed, 15,000 civilians dead from the initial bombardment, 42 ships lost completely. Park nodded, the numbers hitting hard. "And the Valthyr?" 732 ships destroyed or captured. Estimated 60,000 Valthyr killed, and 3 rebellions spreading across conquered worlds with more likely to follow. "We broke them," Park said. "They brought chains for humanity, but their fleets became coffins." The hunt began 3 days after the battle. Humanity didn't wait for the Valthyr to regroup or for reinforcements to arrive. Instead, they became the predators, stalking the wounded alien fleet across the solar system. Captain Boranam's Mars fleet moved through the asteroid belt like sharks through dark water. Her sensors tracked every Valthyr ship, cataloging their damage, their positions, their weaknesses. When a Valthyr vessel separated from the main group, her hunters struck. Target is a damaged cruiser trying to reach Jupiter for repairs, her tactical officer reported. It's alone. Intercept course, Zambora ordered. No survivors. Her ship surrounded the limping Valthyr cruiser. It tried to fight, its weapons still functional, but it was slow and wounded. Bora's fleet tore it apart with focused fire. When the explosions faded, only debris remained. Send the recording to every Valthyr ship in the system, Bora commanded coldly. Let them know there's no safe place to hide. Overlord Krathax received the video transmission showing his cruiser's destruction. He felt rage and something he hadn't experienced in decades of military service. Fear. Real, genuine fear. They're hunting us, his tactical officer said quietly. Krathax couldn't disagree. The humans weren't defending anymore. They were attacking, picking off isolated ships, harassing his fleet, preventing any rest or recovery. His crews were exhausted. His ships needed repairs. But the humans gave them no respite. On Earth, Intelligence Officer Sun Wu-Jang worked through mountains of captured Valthyr data. The information from the boarded cruiser contained military communications, strategic plans, and details about the Valthyr Empire's structure. What he found changed everything. Admiral Park. You need to see this, Sun Wu said, pulling up a holographic display. The Valthyr Empire isn't as strong as they pretend. Look at these deployment records. They have ships spread across 40 star systems, but most are small garrison forces. They control through fear and overwhelming initial force, but they're stretched thin. Park studied the data. They're bluffing. The Empire looks huge, but it's mostly empty threats backed by the reputation of being unbeatable. Exactly, Sun Wu confirmed, and we just broke that reputation. Other conquered species are watching what's happening here. Intelligence intercepts show increased resistance activities on at least 3 conquered worlds. Park smiled grimly. Then we need to make sure everyone keeps watching. Keep broadcasting our victories. Show the galaxy that the Valthyr can be beaten. A new asset arrived from the wreckage of a captured Valthyr slave transport. The ship had been carrying prisoners from a species called the Kelthir, small beings with 6 limbs and natural aptitude for engineering. Human rescue teams freed them from their chains. One Kelthir, a fighter named Yuna Kang in the rough translation of her name, met with Admiral Park through a translator device. Her people had been conquered 15 years ago. She had seen what happened to species that surrendered to the Valthyr. Your people fight differently than ours did, Yuna said. We tried to negotiate. We thought there could be peaceful coexistence. The Valthyr destroyed our capital city from orbit as a lesson. We surrendered within days. What happened after you surrendered? Park asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Slavery, forced labor, children taken from families, executions for minor resistance. The Valthyr don't want partners. They want servants and resources. Yuna's translated voice carried pain and anger. But you're fighting them. Actually winning. My people would help if we could. You can help, Park replied. Tell us everything you know about the Valthyr. Their tactics, their weaknesses, their military structure. Knowledge is a weapon too. Yuna and the other freed Kelthir became valuable intelligence sources. They explained that the Valthyr always used the same strategy. Massive show of force, demand for surrender, orbital bombardment of one city as example, then occupation. It worked because most species valued preservation of their civilization over freedom. Humans are different, Yuna observed. You value freedom more than safety. That makes you dangerous to an empire built on fear. On Mars shipyards, Fleet Captain Narration oversaw construction of Retribution, Earth's first warship built using captured Valthyr technology. The ship combined human innovation with alien engineering. It was faster than anything Earth had built before, with weapons that could actually penetrate Valthyr shields. When will she be ready? Admiral Park asked during an inspection tour. 2 days, Nari replied, running her hand along the hull. We stripped 3 captured Valthyr ships for parts. The fusion drive alone is centuries ahead of our technology, but we made it better. Added redundant systems, better armor, and weapons the Valthyr won't expect. What kind of weapons? Nari smiled. Valthyr shields are designed to stop energy weapons and missiles. They're not designed for mass drivers firing depleted uranium rods at relativistic speeds. We've also installed an improved version of the Cascade virus as a directed weapon. We can infect enemy ships just by getting close enough. Park looked at the warship taking shape before him. It was a symbol of something important. Humanity wasn't just defending anymore. They were building tools for offense. The Retribution launched ahead of schedule and immediately proved its worth. Nari led her new ship into the asteroid belt where Overlord Krathax had taken refuge. The Valthyr flagship detected her approach and prepared for battle. "They're powering weapons," Nari's tactical officer reported. "Good," Nari replied calmly. "Let them see what we've learned." The battle was brief and brutal. The Retribution danced through space with agility no ship its size should possess. It shrugged off Valthyr energy weapons with enhanced shields. When it fired back, the depleted uranium rods punched through alien defenses like paper. Overlord Krathax watched in horror as his flagship's shields failed. Hull breaches appeared across multiple sections. His ship was dying. "Abandon ship," he ordered. "Emergency evacuation." The Valthyr flagship broke apart, debris tumbling through the asteroid belt. Krathax escaped in a command pod, watching his once mighty vessel become another coffin floating in space. The human ship that destroyed it simply turned away, hunting for more targets. Krathax's pod was picked up by a remaining destroyer. He transferred to it, taking command of what was left of his fleet. Less than 70 ships now, from 300 to 70. The humans had destroyed or captured the rest. "Message incoming from the human forces," his communication officer reported hesitantly. On the screen appeared Admiral Park, broadcasting from Earth's command center. His message was simple and devastating. "Overlord Krathax, we're sending this recording to your entire empire. You came to our system with 300 ships. You have 70 left. You promised chains. We've given you coffins instead. Tell your empire that Earth is no longer prey. We're coming for every species you've enslaved, and if you try to stop us, we'll turn your entire fleet into debris." The message included video footage of destroyed Valthyr ships, captured vessels, and freed alien slaves. It showed human ships attacking with fearless aggression. It showed the moon's hidden weapons. It showed everything the Valthyr wanted to keep secret, their vulnerability exposed for the galaxy to see. Krathax knew what this meant. The video would spread through the Empire. Other conquered species would see it. They would realize the Valthyr could be beaten. Rebellions would start. "Sir, we're receiving reports from the Empire," his communication officer said quietly. 3 conquered worlds are in open revolt. They're demanding independence. The Empire is pulling ships from other sectors to maintain control. The Valthyr Empire was crumbling, and it was all humanity's fault. On Earth, people watched the broadcasts with fierce pride. They had lost thousands of soldiers and spacers. Cities had been damaged, ships had been destroyed, but they had proven something the Valthyr never believed possible. Humans could fight. Humans could win. Intelligence officer Sun Wu Jiang compiled reports from across the galaxy. The Cascade virus had spread beyond just Valthyr ships. It was in their communication networks now, carried by their own military signals. The Empire's computer systems were degrading, introducing errors into everything from supply, logistics to navigation charts. "We've weaponized their own technology against them," Sun Wu explained to Admiral Park. "Every message they send potentially spreads the infection further. They can't communicate without risking system corruption." "How long until the reinforcement fleet arrives?" Park asked. 8 days, Sun Wu replied. 500 ships. But they're being pulled from garrison duties across 12 systems. Those systems are now vulnerable. Park made a decision that would define humanity's future. We don't wait for them to come to us. We're taking the Retribution and our best ships. We're going to hit them while they're in transit, scattered across multiple jump points. We're taking this fight to them. It was a bold plan. Insane, even. But humanity had already done impossible things. What was one more? Captain Jiwon Kim volunteered to join the assault fleet. Her ship was repaired and ready. Her crew was experienced and eager. They had lost friends in the defense of Earth. Now they would make the Valthyr pay for every human life lost. The fleet prepared to leave Earth's orbit, heading out into deep space to intercept the approaching reinforcements. They brought chains for humanity, but their fleets became coffins. The Valthyr fleet approached cautiously this time, weapons ready, sensors scanning for threats. Overlord Krathax had learned his lesson about underestimating humans. He kept his ships in tight formation, point defense systems active, ready for suicide attacks. Maintain maximum scanning range, he ordered. I want no surprises. His tactical officer studied the sensor displays. Sir, the moon. Something's wrong with our readings. Explain. There are power signatures across the lunar surface. Hundreds of them. They weren't there during our initial scans. Krathax felt cold dread in his stomach. What kind of power signatures? Weapons systems. Missile silos. They're everywhere, hidden in the craters. Sir, the entire moon is a weapons platform. Before Krathax could give orders, the lunar surface erupted with fire. Colonel Dayun Ko stood in the command bunker buried 3 kilometers below the moon's surface. Around her, operators managed thousands of missile systems that had been built in secret over the past 5 years. Humanity had suspected first contact might not be peaceful. They had prepared accordingly. All batteries fire at will, Dayun commanded. The moon had no atmosphere to carry sound, but if it had, the roar would have been deafening. Thousands of missiles launched simultaneously from hidden silos across the lunar surface. They had been disguised as research stations, mining operations, and communication arrays. The Valthyr scans had missed them because they were designed to look like civilian installations until the moment they activated. The missiles streaked toward the Valthyr fleet in waves. Some carried nuclear warheads. Others were kinetic impactors, just solid metal designed to punch through shields with pure velocity. A few were decoys, making the Valthyr waste ammunition on empty shells. The Valthyr point defense systems fired frantically, destroying hundreds of incoming missiles. But there were thousands more. The mathematics were simple and brutal. No defense system could stop them all. Explosions rippled through the Valthyr formation. 5 ships destroyed outright. 12 more damaged and limping. The carefully maintained formation broke apart as captains tried to evade the overwhelming missile barrage. They turned their moon into a fortress, Krathax's tactical officer said, voice filled with disbelief. Krathax couldn't respond. He was too busy trying to save his fleet. Then the second surprise hit from behind. Captain Bora Nam commanded the Mars Defense Fleet from her flagship Iron Dawn. For the past 6 hours, her 50 ships had been hiding behind Mars, maintaining complete radio silence. The Valthyr hadn't known Earth had secretly built another fleet at the Mars shipyards. All ships attack pattern Delta, Bora ordered calmly. Hit them hard and hit them fast. The Mars fleet burst around the planet at full acceleration. They were newer ships than Earth's original fleet, built specifically for combat with heavier armor and more powerful weapons. They caught the Valthyr rearguard completely by surprise. Bora's gunners targeted the Valthyr engines and command structures. They weren't trying for killing blows. They were trying to cripple ships, leave them floating in space unable to fight or run. Dead ships could be dealt with later. Disabled ships created obstacles and confusion right now. The Valthyr fleet suddenly found itself caught in a 3-way attack. Missiles from the moon, ships from Mars, and Earth's remaining forces pressing from the other side. It was a carefully planned trap, and the aliens had walked right into it. Fall back, Krathax ordered. All units, emergency retreat vector. But retreating wasn't easy when missiles were coming from one direction and ships from 2 others. The Valthyr formation dissolved into chaos as individual ships tried to escape the kill box. Dr. Hyejin Yoon watched the battle unfold from her monitoring station. She saw something interesting in the Valthyr communications. Their signals were becoming corrupted, garbled. Ships were sending commands that made no sense. She pulled up her analysis software and gasped. Someone's hacking them. Scientist Jamin Huang worked in a lab deep in the Swiss Alps. He was a computer engineer who specialized in xenotech systems. For the past 3 days, he had been analyzing the computer systems from captured Valthyr communication drones. He had found a vulnerability. The Valthyr used networked systems. Their ships talked to each other constantly, sharing data and coordinates. It made them efficient. It also made them vulnerable to a carefully designed virus. Jimin called his creation the Cascade virus. Once it infected one ship, it would spread to others through standard communication protocols. The virus didn't destroy systems. That would be too obvious. Instead, it corrupted navigation data, introduced tiny errors into targeting calculations, and occasionally made ships broadcast false information to their allies. The Cascade virus had been deployed through captured Valthyr drones hours ago. Now it was spreading through their fleet like a disease, turning their own technology against them. Valthyr ships began firing on each other, their targeting systems corrupted. Navigation systems failed, sending vessels tumbling off course. Communication broke down as captains couldn't trust the data they were receiving. The organized Valthyr fleet became a disorganized mess. Captain Ji-Won Kim led her squadron through the chaos. Her ship was damaged but still functional. She targeted Valthyr vessels that were already crippled, finishing them off before they could recover. "Board that disabled cruiser," she ordered her Marines. "We need their technology and any intelligence we can find." Her boarding teams breached the Valthyr hull and fought their way inside. The aliens were fierce fighters, but the human Marines had training and motivation. They captured the ship's computer core and retreated before Valthyr reinforcements could arrive. On the captured computer core, intelligence officers found horrifying information. Records of 17 conquered species, worlds burned from orbit when they resisted, entire populations enslaved, children taken from parents and raised as servants. The Valthyr Empire was built on cruelty and fear. Ji-Won watched the recordings and felt her resolve harden. "Copy everything," she told her intelligence officer. "The whole galaxy needs to see this." Admiral Park coordinated the assault from Earth's command center. Status displays showed the changing tactical situation. The Valthyr had started with 300 ships. They were now down to less than 200, with many of those damaged. "They're retreating toward Jupiter orbit," his tactical officer reported. "Let them go," Park ordered. "Our ships need time to rearm and repair, but keep following them. Don't let them rest." The Valthyr fleet limped away from Earth, pursued by human hunter-killer groups. Overlord Krathax sat on his command bridge, staring at casualty reports that seemed impossible. Over 100 ships lost or too damaged to fight, against a species that shouldn't have been able to resist at all. "Sir, incoming message from the Valthyr homeworld," his communication officer reported. The face of High Command appeared on the screen. "Overlord Krathax, your reports are difficult to believe. The Empire is sending reinforcements. 500 ships will arrive in your sector within 2 weeks. Hold your position and wait for support." Krathax wanted to laugh. "Hold position? Against these humans?" But he simply nodded. "Understood, High Command." The communication ended. Krathax looked at his battered fleet, and then at the sensor readings showing human ships stalking them through deep space. 500 reinforcements would crush Earth, but it wouldn't bring back his lost ships or fallen soldiers. On Earth, celebrations were brief. They had won a major victory, but everyone knew more Valthyr were coming. Admiral Park addressed the planet through every broadcast channel. "We've proven we can fight. We've shown these aliens that humanity doesn't surrender, but this isn't over. They're sending more ships. So we prepare, we build more weapons, retrofit more vessels, and train more fighters. When they come back, we'll be ready." Dr. Hee-Jin Yoon analyzed the intercepted message about Valthyr reinforcements. She did the math. 500 fresh ships against Earth's battered defenses. The numbers weren't good, but then she looked at something else in the Valthyr communications. The Empire was pulling ships from other sectors to send to Earth. That meant other conquered worlds were being left with weaker garrisons. And some of those worlds were listening to broadcasts about humanity's resistance. Maybe Earth wasn't alone in this fight after all. Captain Bora, Nam's Mars fleet settled into a pursuit pattern behind the retreating Valthyr. Her ships were built for long operations, designed to hunt enemies across the solar system. She sent a message to Admiral Park. "Mars fleet will maintain contact with enemy forces. We won't let them regroup in peace." Earth's remaining forces returned home to rearm and repair. Shipyards worked day and night building new vessels. Engineers studied captured Valthyr technology. Soldiers trained with new weapons. Humanity had won the battle, but the war was just beginning. And somewhere in the wreckage floating through space, among the remains of Valthyr ships that had come to bring chains, humanity had sent a clear message. Earth would not kneel. Earth would fight. And anyone who threatened humanity would find their ships becoming coffins in the void. They brought chains for humanity, but their fleets became coffins. The Valthyr fleet moved through space like a wall of metal and death. Overlord Krathax expected Earth's ships to form a defensive line, to try protecting their planet in one last desperate stand. Instead, the human vessels scattered like insects, darting away in different directions. "Cowards," Krathax muttered. "They're running already." His tactical officer frowned at the sensor readings. "Sir, I don't think they're running. Look at their vectors. They're circling around us." Before Krathax could respond, the first attack came from an unexpected direction. A small human vessel appeared from behind the moon, accelerating at impossible speeds. It wasn't firing weapons. It was just flying straight at the nearest Valthyr cruiser. "Destroy it," Krathax ordered. The Valthyr ship fired its defensive weapons, but the human vessel was too fast and too small. It slammed into the cruiser's side at a significant fraction of light speed. The explosion lit up space like a small sun. When the light faded, the Valthyr cruiser was gone. "Just debris, what was that?" Krathax demanded. "The ship was packed with nuclear warheads," his officer reported, voice shaking. "They turned it into a missile. A suicide attack." Commander Taiyang Choi watched the successful impact from his command post on Luna. His voice was calm as he spoke into his communicator. "Wraith Squadron, you saw the result. Proceed with attack pattern Alpha." Across near-Earth space, 40 automated fighters launched. Each one was piloted by advanced AI and packed with fusion bombs. They had one mission: get close enough to Valthyr ships to detonate. The AI didn't need to return home. It just needed to hit the target. The Valthyr point defense systems opened fire, destroying many of the incoming fighters. But there were too many, coming from too many angles. The AIs were smart, using evasive maneuvers and hiding behind debris. One by one, they reached their targets. Explosions bloomed across the Valthyr fleet. 5 ships destroyed, 7 more heavily damaged. The Valthyr had never faced an enemy willing to throw away ships and pilots like this. "They're insane," Krathax's tactical officer said. "No," Krathax replied slowly, understanding starting to dawn. "They're desperate, and that makes them far more dangerous." On Earth's surface, Major Sorahan sat in a reinforced bunker deep underground. Around her, dozens of operators controlled the planet's network of railgun installations. The weapons had been built into mountains, disguised as civilian structures, hidden in ways the Valthyr initial scans had missed. "Targeting lock on the command ship," one operator reported. "Fire," Sora ordered. Railguns used electromagnetic force to launch projectiles at incredible velocities. No explosives, no fuel, just solid metal moving faster than anything chemical rockets could achieve. The Valthyr sensors barely detected them before impact. 3 Valthyr command ships took direct hits. Their shields absorbed most of the impact, but the sheer kinetic energy overwhelmed them. Hull plates cracked. Systems failed. One ship lost power completely and went dark, tumbling through space. "Reload and acquire new targets," Sora commanded. Her railguns fired again and again, each shot carefully aimed at critical ship systems. Captain Jiwon Kim led a squadron of Earth's fastest ships in hit-and-run attacks. They would appear from behind asteroids or debris fields, fire everything they had at a single Valthyr ship, then run before the enemy could respond effectively. "Target their engines," Jiwon ordered her gunner. "We can't destroy their ships easily, but we can cripple them." Her ship fired a spread of missiles. Most were shot down by Valthyr defenses, but 3 got through. They weren't designed to destroy the massive enemy vessel. They were designed to damage the engine ports just enough to reduce mobility. The Valthyr ship slowed, its maneuverability compromised. Jiwon's squadron was already gone, racing toward the next target. Engineer Junho Lee had spent the last 3 days preparing his masterpiece. He called it the Prometheus Protocol. The civilian cargo haulers and mining ships weren't designed for combat. They were slow, poorly armed, and fragile, but they could carry massive amounts of cargo. Lee had filled 12 of these ships with everything explosive he could find. Mining charges, industrial chemicals, fuel, even old ammunition. Then he'd added guidance systems stripped from missiles and the most basic automation possible. The ships were flying bombs, each one capable of causing devastating damage if they hit their target. The volunteer pilots knew they probably wouldn't survive. They guided their explosive ships toward the Valthyr fleet, then at the last moment, transferred control to the automated systems and ejected in tiny escape pods. The massive cargo haulers plowed into the Valthyr formation at full speed. The impacts were spectacular. One hit a Valthyr carrier dead center, the explosion tearing the enemy ship in half. Another clipped a destroyer, sending both ships tumbling off course in a shower of debris. Overlord Krathax watched his fleet status board turn red. In 3 hours of fighting, he had lost 18 ships. 18. He had lost more ships today than in his last 6 military campaigns combined. All units, pull back to defensive formation, he ordered. No more advancing. We reassess, but the humans didn't give him time to regroup. They pressed their attacks, coming from every direction, using every weapon they had. Small ships, large ships, missiles, railguns, and suicide attacks. It was chaos, brutal, and effective. Dr. Hee-Jin Yoon monitored the intercepted Valthyr communications from her lab. She could hear the confusion in their transmissions. They were using words that translated to unexpected and aggressive and casualties. The Valthyr were learning that humanity was different from the other species they had conquered. They're scared, Hee-Jin said to her assistant. Listen to the patterns in their communication. They're actually scared of us. On the horizon's edge, Captain Ji-won Kim reviewed the casualty reports. Earth had lost 38 ships. More than half their combat fleet was gone. But the Valthyr had lost 18 of theirs, with dozens more damaged. The exchange rate was better than anyone had hoped. Her communication officer looked up. Captain, Admiral Park is ordering all remaining units to fall back to the lunar defensive line. Ji-won nodded. Phase 1 was complete. They had bloodied the Valthyr nose, shown them that Earth wouldn't surrender easily. Now came the hard part. The Valthyr fleet regrouped beyond Mars orbit, licking its wounds. Overlord Krathax reviewed the battle reports with growing anger and, though he hated to admit it, a touch of fear. These humans had tactics he'd never encountered. They fought without honor, without the careful protocols that civilized warfare demanded. They were willing to die to take down his ships. Begin long-range bombardment of Earth's defensive installations, he ordered. We stay out of range of their weapons and destroy them from a distance. It was the smart, tactical decision. But it meant admitting that the humans were dangerous enough, that the Valthyr needed to be cautious. That admission bothered Krathax more than he wanted to admit. On Earth, Admiral Park received the intelligence reports about the Valthyr changing tactics. He smiled grimly. The enemy was being careful now, which meant they respected human firepower. Good. He opened a secure channel to Colonel Daeun Ko on the lunar surface. Colonel, how are your hidden installations? Ready, sir, Daeun replied. The Valthyr have no idea what we built into the moon. They're about to get a surprise. Excellent, Park said. Prepare to activate Scorched Sky Protocol on my command. Across Earth's remaining military installations, soldiers and spacers prepared for the next phase. They had survived the first engagement. Many of their friends hadn't. But they had proven something important. Humans could hurt the Valthyr. They could make the aliens pay for every meter of space, and the real battle hadn't even started yet. Captain Ji-won Kim stood on her damaged bridge, looking at the stars where her fellow captains had died. She recorded a message in her personal log. We've lost a lot of people today. Good people. Brave people, but we taught the Valthyr a lesson they won't forget. We're not prey. We're not slaves. We're humanity. And we will fight until our last breath, our last ship, our last bullet. They brought chains for us. We're going to make sure those chains become their coffins. She closed the log and turned to her crew. Damage report. I want this ship combat ready in 6 hours. We're not done yet. Her crew, exhausted and grieving, nodded and got to work. Outside, the Valthyr fleet prepared for their next assault. Neither side knew it yet, but the battle for Earth was only beginning. They brought chains for humanity, but their fleets became coffins. The alarm systems across Earth screamed at the same moment. Every telescope, every satellite, every deep space sensor detected the same impossible thing. 300 massive ships had appeared at the edge of the solar system, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. Captain Ji-won Kim stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the sensor data scroll across her screens. Her hands gripped the command console as the computer calculated the size of the alien fleet. Each enemy vessel was 5 times bigger than her ship. There were 300 of them. Earth had 73 combat ships total. Get me Admiral Park, she said quietly. Her crew moved fast, fingers flying over their stations. They all knew what this meant. Admiral Minho Park appeared on her screen moments later. The old man looked tired, his face covered in deep lines from 40 years of military service. He had fought in the Mars colony wars, commanded ships through asteroid pirate raids, and survived battles that killed better officers. But nothing had prepared him for this. They're not answering our hails, Park said without greeting. No response to any communication attempt. They just sit there waiting. Waiting for what? Jiwon asked, though she already suspected the answer. For us to see how hopeless this is. Across the planet below, people looked up at the sky. News networks interrupted regular programming. Governments held emergency meetings. Children asked their parents what the lights in the sky were. Nobody had a good answer yet. Dr. Hyejin Yoon worked in the xenolinguistics lab in Geneva, surrounded by computer screens showing alien signal patterns. She had spent her entire career hoping to make first contact with another intelligent species. Now that the moment had arrived, she felt nothing but cold fear in her stomach. There, her assistant said, pointing at a screen. They're broadcasting something. The message came through on every frequency at once. Radio, television, internet, military channels. Even old emergency broadcast systems that hadn't been used in decades. The signal was so powerful it overrode everything else. Hyejin listened as her computer translated the alien language. The translation algorithm struggled at first, then locked onto patterns. Words formed on her screen. People of Earth, we are the Valthyr Empire. We have conquered 17 species across 40 star systems. Your world is now ours. You have 72 hours to surrender your weapons and your governments. You will serve the Empire. Resistance will result in the destruction of your major cities from orbit. This is not a negotiation. This is a fact. The message repeated in every human language. Mandarin, English, Spanish, Hindi, Arabic. The Valthyr had studied humanity before they arrived. They knew everything about Earth. Hyejin felt sick. She pulled up her analysis software and started examining the Valthyr communication patterns, looking for anything useful. After 2 hours of work, she found something disturbing in the underlying code structure. The Valthyr message protocols were designed for species that surrendered. They had no contingency for prolonged resistance. They had done this so many times that they expected humanity to give up immediately. Admiral Park called an emergency meeting at UEDF headquarters. Every fleet commander, every ground force general, every intelligence officer joined by video link. The room and the screen showed dozens of grim faces. Options, Park said simply. We have none, replied General Kwan from Pacific Defense. Their fleet could glass every city on Earth in under an hour. Our weapons can't penetrate their shields based on the scans we've done. We're outgunned, outmanned, and out of time. So we surrender? Captain Jiwon Kim spoke from her ship's bridge, her voice cutting through the defeated atmosphere. We just give up? Hand over our children to be slaves? What choice do we have? Another officer asked. We fight, Jiwon said flatly. We make them pay for every meter of space, every inch of ground. We make them regret coming here. That's suicide, someone argued. Then we die free, Jiwon replied. I've read the history books. Humanity has been in hopeless situations before. We lost every battle and still won wars. We've fought empires that seemed invincible. Some of those empires don't exist anymore. Admiral Park looked at the young captain on his screen. She was right, though he hated to admit it. Surrender meant extinction as a free species. Fighting meant probable extinction as a dead species. But at least fighting gave them a chance, however small. Everyone, start going through our military history archives, Park ordered. Vietnam, Afghanistan, every guerrilla war, every resistance movement, every time a weaker force defeated a stronger one. Find tactics we can adapt to space warfare. We have 72 hours. The meeting ended. Officers scattered to their stations. Engineers started modifying weapons. Pilots checked their ships. Soldiers said goodbye to their families just in case. Hyejin worked through the night, analyzing everything she could learn about the Valthyr from their broadcasts. She discovered they were arrogant. They believed their own propaganda about invincibility. They had won so many easy victories that they had forgotten how to fight a real war. Captain Jiwon Kim gathered her crew on the horizon's edge. Record messages for your families, she told them. Tell them you love them. Then delete any trace of emotion from your mind. We're about to do things that will haunt us forever if we survive. Her crew nodded. They understood. War was coming and it would be ugly. Across Earth, factories started working overtime. Civilian ships were retrofitted with weapons and armor. Mining corporations donated their equipment. Every railgun, every missile, every nuclear warhead was pulled from storage and prepared for use. Asteroid miners attached engines to space rocks, turning them into weapons. Scientists worked on computer viruses designed to attack alien systems. Humanity prepared for war. On the Valthyr flagship, Overlord Krathax reviewed the scans of Earth's defenses. Their ships were primitive. Their weapons were weak. Their military was tiny. This would be the easiest conquest in decades. They're mobilizing their forces, his tactical officer reported. Krathax laughed. Of course they are. They always do. Let them waste their energy. When the deadline passes, we'll destroy a few cities and they'll surrender. They always do. But his officer looked worried. The humans are doing something strange. They're not forming defensive lines. They're scattering their ships into small groups, and they're moving civilian vessels into combat positions. Desperation, Krathax dismissed. We've seen it before. The 72 hours counted down. Earth evacuated coastal cities, moving civilians inland. Children were sent to underground shelters. Governments moved to backup locations. Everyone waited. Admiral Park sat in his command center watching the countdown timer. With 5 minutes remaining, he opened a communication channel to the Valthyr fleet. His message was simple and direct. We've seen your chains. Come take our world if you can. The timer reached 0. The Valthyr fleet began moving toward Earth. And humanity showed them what happens when you threaten a species that has spent its entire history fighting wars it shouldn't have been able to win.